Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the workshop meeting for Monday, February 23rd. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Hein?
Here.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
President Argyris?
Here. Thank you. Proclamations, Madam Clerk.
Bob Heer Day, February 24th, 2015. Robert J. Bob Heer served as trustee of the Village of Wheeling from 1995 until his untimely passing on December 24th, 2014. During his nearly 20-year tenure on the Board of Trustees, Bob Heer's personal generosity, wise guidelines, and genuine concern for his fellow residents were tremendous assets to the Village of Wheeling. Bob Heer's service to the village was only one of many notable contributions to the broader community, which included a 33-year career in the Buffalo Grove Police Department and a significant role safeguarding and mentoring the students of Buffalo Grove High School, both during his lengthy service as a youth officer and after his retirement. Bob Heer's lifelong generosity and commitment to the welfare of others continued even after his passing, through the gifts of renewed life and restored health that he bestowed as an organ donor. Bob Heer's unstinking dedication to public service, to his profession, and most importantly to his family, testifies to his status as an exemplary citizen in whom the entire Wheeling community can rightfully take pride. Dean Argyris, President of the Village of Wheeling, counties of Cook and Lake, and the state of Illinois do hereby celebrate Bob Heer's lifetime of service and calls upon the Wheeling community to join him in honoring his memory in recognition of his significant contributions.
Thank you. This evening we have Senators Link, Senator Morrison, State Representative Sente, and State Representative Nekritz. I would ask to come to the podium, please. Yes, this is on. There are a couple additional proclamations here, Chair, Kathy. One from the governor, and maybe record, if you wouldn't mind. Please.
Dear Heer family, I was saddened to hear about the passing of Wheeling trustee Bob Heer. On behalf of the people of Illinois, I offer you my deepest sympathies. I can only imagine how difficult a time like this is for your family, but I hope you can find comfort in Bob's memory and the wonderful experience you shared with him. It is truly impossible to put into words how it feels to lose a loved one. A man of talent and ambition, Bob made vast contributions to the land of Lincoln. He served with honor as a police officer with the Village of Buffalo Grove and was a distinguished Wheeling Village trustee. Bob and I shared a strong belief in serving others, and he was always committed to helping his family and community. Bob was a kind and dedicated man who left an indelible mark on everyone who met him. Although no words can fill the void in your heart, I hope the fond memories of Bob, the strong relationship you had, and the many experiences you shared will bring you some peace and solace during this difficult time. Please know that my thoughts and prayers are with you. Sincerely, Pat Quinn, Governor.
I believe there's something from the House. Carol, you want to read that? Thanks.
Good evening. Representative Nekritz and I also had a resolution written in the House, and we wanted to present it to the family. Bob and Kathy and his children, their children, were constituents in my district. Lynn and I, well, all four of us represent the entire community of Wheeling, and we were extremely saddened at the sudden death of Bob. Bob is someone I've known for many decades, actually. I had the opportunity to first meet him when the firm I used to own worked on the design of the Village Hall here. And then every year when I'd stop by his house and knock and visit, he'd always give me, jokingly, a very hard time about whatever I was not doing enough of, and in his characteristic, just good humor way. And I really enjoyed that from him. I think something that I always remember my parents saying is, you know, we're always here to give back and to leave our communities and lasting memories on our families, communities, all we touch. And that's something that I came to know Bob for. I just don't know someone who has spent more of his life trying to give back to his community and his family than Bob. If it wasn't enough to be on the police department for all those years and be a trustee and on his church, then he moved to the high school district as a security guard. I mean, the list of things he did went on, and I think what was particularly moving to me is when I came here the evening of his wake, and you just saw the lines and lines of thousands of people who wanted to pay their respects, no matter how long they needed to wait. And I guess we all wish that many people thought highly of us when our time comes, right? But very few people probably have that number coming to pay their respects. So it is with my deepest sympathy that I hope, I offer condolences to the family and hope that through the memories, and there's thousands of memories that everyone has with Bob, that you find some comfort in that. So this is a resolution we'd like to give to the family. Thank you.
One last thing, a little tradition the village board here has started, and I'll have our senior trustee up here present this maybe to you, Kathy. Would you come on up?
Her family, right after I got married, moved into a house just behind my sister-in-law, so we've known them ever since. And I tell you, a perfect family, a beautiful man, a beautiful mother and wife, and beautiful kids. This is probably what I would say is a textbook Wheeling family. And you've shown it through the years. You've been great friends. You've been good to everybody. Bob was an exceptional human being. And I think we all kind of liked him and realized how good he was, but I think when we had the thing here and over 3,000 people showed up to say goodbye, that was above and beyond. On behalf of a very sad but proud village, I'd like to give you this sign and tell you, you know, if I had my way, we'd name the community after. But that would cause a little confusion. They say, here, where? Here. As Bob would have said. Thank you, sweetie.
On behalf of Kathy, Nick, Andy, and Katie, all the Here family, they truly appreciate the outpouring of humanity that the village offered in providing a place for Bob's wake and the support that they provided to the family in the aftermath. Thank you.
Folks, we're going to take a 5-minute break, okay?
To make it through.
Thank you, everyone. Now we reconvene into open session. Next item on the agenda is another proclamation. Madam Clerk.
Professional Social Work Month, March 2015. All people matter. The primary mission of the social work profession is to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic needs of all people, especially the most vulnerable in society. Social work pioneers help lead America's struggle for social justice. Social workers know that poverty and trauma can create lifelong social and economic disadvantages. Social workers know that discrimination of any kind limits human potential and must be eliminated. Social workers stand up for individuals and support diverse families in every community. Social workers help people in every stage of life function better in their environments, improve their relationships with others, and solve personal and family problems. All children have the right to safe environments and quality education. Dignity and caregiving for older adults help define a nation's character. Veterans and their families need community support to ensure successful transition after service. Access to mental health treatment and health care saves millions of lives. Social workers are change agents who put the ideals of citizenship into action every day. Social workers believe in shared prosperity and opportunity for everyone. Social work research and advocacy turn community needs into national priorities. Social workers celebrate the courage, hope, and strength of the human spirit throughout their careers. In recognition of the numerous contributions made by America's 600,000 social workers, Dean Argyris, President of the Village of Wheeling, proclaimed the month of March 2015 as National Social Work Month and calls upon all citizens to join him with the National Association of Social Workers and the Village of Wheeling in celebration and support of the social work profession.
Director Wezak. Thank you. Whatever you guys do.
Thank you.
Whatever you're doing.
I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the social
Sherry,
workers that work here in the Village of Wheeling. Jan Christensen. Thank you. Angela Brown. Adrian Mayorga. I have two interns that work with us. Megan Robalt from the University of Illinois, Jane Adams, and Jessica Salgado from Aurora University.
Thank you. Great job, guys. Thank you so much. Citizens' concerns and comments?
There are none, President.
Okay. No staff reports. Presentation number 7.
Update on Chicago Executive Airport Master Plan.
Thank you. Manager Svendelis.
Thank you. By way of introduction and reminder to everyone, several months ago when the master plan idea was first brought to you, we discussed having quarterly or at least frequent updates from Mr. Priester, and this evening is the first of those updates as master plan has now gotten underway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased and excited to be here and to report about a master plan that's progressing very nicely. We've had an opportunity to learn a number of things, verify a number of things. And before I start,
Mr. Priester, just a minute, excuse me. Just talk into the mic a little bit because we are.
I'm sorry.
That's better.
How's that?
Thank you. Much better.
Okay. Along the things that we have found as we've proceeded with the master plan is maybe some misunderstandings. So if you'll bear with me, I'd like to maybe stand back and clarify the process of a master plan. Master plan for airports is divided into 2 phases, phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 lasts about a year, phase 2 can last 3 to 4 years. In an oversimplified version of phase 1, what really happens is you stand back and look at the changes that have occurred both in the community, in the aviation industry, in the user requirements, all those things that have changed since the last master plan was accomplished. Now, it's been 30 years since we've done a master plan at Chicago Executive. Needless to say, one of the things that we did not point out was how the master plan flows. After phase 1 is complete at the end of approximately a year, there is a decision point. And we have found that many of the citizens, many of the folks don't realize that that's what happened. The formal report will be put together and submitted to the airport board. The airport board will accept the report, ask the questions they have, and they will submit their report to the two owners of the two communities with a recommendation to proceed to phase 2 or to do nothing. Now, the obvious thing that happens in oversimplifying, if you will, is if there has been no changes since the last master plan was completed, the obvious answer is there's no reason to go further. I believe, and I believe without a shadow of a doubt, that when the phase 1 is submitted to the airport board and therefore the communities, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it will be demonstrated there have been huge and massive changes, not only in the communities with the good works that have been done by the leadership in the communities during that period of time, but in the industry, the users, and so forth and so on. Now, moving ahead, well, first of all, I have to say something else. I'm sorry. The phase 1 will be submitted. If we move to phase 2, the study will be completed. There will be a decision point at the end of phase 2. The same thing will happen insofar as phase 2 will be submitted to the airport board. The airport board will review it, have the questions they have, and submit a recommended action to the two communities. The two communities will make the decision on what actions they'll take, if any, the extent of the actions, and they have the final say in determining what happens after the completion of phase 2 of the master plan. Now, in proceeding with the master plan, we've used certain guiding principles. Makes a lot of sense when you think about it. And one of those legs of the stool, if you will, is fulfilling the airport's role, not only locally to the local communities, but on the state level, the regional level, and certainly the national level. And this airport, as you may know, plays a very significant and important part in the national system of airports. Another leg is airport safety and compatibility. Compatibility with the community, compatibility with the economic development plans and so forth that the community holds. It is integrated with the local and community plans. And finally, it's integrated with the financial viability of whatever is done at the location and enhancing the financial viability of the communities. Now, I think very wisely, your board here several weeks ago passed a resolution. And you very acutely, if I will, say you gathered the concerns of the citizens as they were being expressed to you. And you gave a resolution to the airport authority to consider those concerns, questions, and so forth as we move forward with the master plan. And believe me, that is being done, and we're under scrutiny, if you will, from the folks on your board to be sure that we're doing that. But that is part of the plan. We expect that phase 1 will be completed and submitted to the airport board sometime in the late spring of this year. Now, we've learned some interesting things and we verified some facts. And I'll touch, if you'll bear with me, on the things that we verified. Chicago Executive is number 8 in the top 10 of the reliever airports serving this country. Now, I think I'm also hearing some misunderstanding or concern about what is a reliever. Well, years ago, the federal government, in setting up the national system of airports, at that time, they wisely said it makes absolutely no sense when we have major air carrier airports, the O'Hares, the LaGuardias, the Los Angeles, the Miamis, to have corporate traffic to have general aviation traffic using those facilities, although they're absolutely entitled to do so. And very wisely, the government says we will support, which they continue to do, the establishment of all alternative airports, which are called relievers, that are designed and built and suited to more properly take care of or accommodate the corporate users. That's what the definition of reliever means. There are probably 25 or 30 relievers in the country, but it speaks volumes to this operation that we are number 8 in terms of reliever airports in the entire country. The next thing that we find is, well, why should that happen? Well, I think we all know this, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. In the Chicago area, there are 4 relievers. There is called Palwaukee, but Chicago Executive, DuPage, Aurora, and Waukegan. The information that I have read through the past months shows very clearly that companies are building, establishing their manufacturing plants, whatever it is they're doing, in close proximity to downtown Chicago. The reason for that is because the technical people, the young people, there's been an exodus, if you will, from the suburbs into the center city, into the downtown Chicago. Companies realizing that are moving their operations closer and closer to the city. Well, this picture very clearly shows that we are approximately half as far in distance and time from downtown Chicago as any of the other reliever airports. That screams volumes about what is happening, why it's important, and why the corporates use this. The other thing that comes out that I think is very dramatic, and quite frankly, I knew it existed, but I didn't know to the extent that it existed, is that in the service area for Chicago Executive Airport, there are 35 Fortune 500 companies located in our service area. That is extremely important. I think it also demonstrates the fact that the companies, these jobs, or the companies that create these jobs and opportunities for our people and citizens, realize the importance of the location of the airport and the location to labor markets. We think that's very important. Now, in the area of things that we've learned and some misunderstandings that we've seen happen, we have found in the community that very few people realize that this airport, Chicago Executive, is self-sufficient. I can say from my experience, there may be another airport in the country out there that is self-sufficient, but I know of none. And for this airport to be self-sustaining, there is not $1 in taxpayers' money from these 2 communities that goes into sustaining that airport. A question that I was asked, we put up here, is, well, just exactly what do the communities gain financially from the existence of this airport? Now, we can look at this a lot of different ways. The direct impact from numbers that have been established by your community are there $345,000 a year that we can point to the line item in your financial statements and show that that money comes directly to the community. As part of real estate and part of the planning, there's a number that's called the indirect economic benefits. Now, those are good numbers. That is something that is used in financial analysis throughout the country as people look at benefits. That is normally called, and it's consistently called, about 2.5 times the direct benefits. So what this really says is there's about $1,100,000 a year that the communities of the community of Wheeling benefits from this airport being there and the things we're doing. But you know, that's only half of the picture. Another thing that we should consider, that needs to be considered, that of the money that is collected in property taxes and so forth at the airport, if that money were not coming from the airport, by the way, the airport doesn't have any kids going to school or use any of the services, those funds would have to be collected from the citizens or have to come from someplace else to make up take their place in the budget. So these are numbers. There's a lot of scrutiny. These are actual numbers. There's a lot further study that can be done as we proceed down the road on this study. The other thing that bothers me and it haunts me a little bit is I hear people say, well, you know, you're hauling freight out of the airport. Well, I have to tell you, I think the problem that we have here is probably one of terminology. When people talk to me about freighters and carrying freight and so forth, I have visions of 747s and DC-10s as cargo haulers. That's not the case of this facility. I think we'd be better used or better served, if you will, to say that what we do is some special use flights. Now, what do I mean by special use flights? It is absolutely true that we'll carry organ transplants out of the airport. In the years that I was flying and the years our company's been in business, I can remember times, as a matter of fact, a number of years ago, I personally flew a payroll from a local company to Lincoln, Nebraska, because for whatever reason it didn't get there in time. I personally flew some x-ray film to hospitals in Cleveland, where because of the trucking strike, the hospitals were hurting for x-ray film. I can remember flying a trip to Seattle, Washington, with about a half-a-pound package, which was a computer board that was shutting down a production line in Seattle. So, you know, the reality is we have special purpose flights, and we're going to continue to have special purpose flights. But there is no reason I want to be sure that the conception is not that there are freighters carrying heavy freight out of that airport. Now, we just had what I'd like to say is, I think, a terrific event. It goes along with our promise to the citizens for an absolute transparent operation. And what we're doing is searching for more citizens' comments, more concerns, and the ability to take and answer some questions that people might have. On Wednesday of this past week and Thursday, we held an event for citizens. We call it a citizens' coffee. There was no speeches given, but we had the opportunity to discuss concerns with many of the citizens, answer questions, and follow up on what's happening so that they have a very good idea of the process and what's going on. We think it was very, very successful. We think it went very, very well. And as a matter of fact, I was surprised, and I don't claim to be an expert in this, but I've been told first of all, we had 33 written comments. Of the 33 written comments, 7 of those were citizens of these communities complimenting us on doing a good job of keeping them informed, of a good presentation of the things that we're doing. So we take that as an attaboy, and I have to say the mayor and presidents of the communities were there. You folks joined us, and we thank you for the support. Many of the trustees here joined us, but we think it was a very good and productive day, and from citizens' comments, why apparently many of those folks think the same way. As we go into phase 2, I'm convinced when we go to phase 2 that the substantial changes that we have do exist, and that the city and the village and the users and the aircraft, there's been tremendous changes in that 30-year period. But I'm equally convinced that the decision makers of these communities, we promise you verifiable data, and we're convinced that you're going to need this data to make the proper decisions for the future of the communities in the airport. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your time.
Good. Thank you, Chairman. Open up to questions. Trustee Brady?
Mr. Priester, who is behind this study? Who ordered it? Who wants it?
The study?
Yeah, the plan.
Was recommended, the airport board recommended that we do the study, and quite frankly, we're required, the airport is required to do a master plan, and 30 years is way too long to do the master plan. So it was good planning. The leadership in the communities decided it was time to do a master plan, and certainly it was not only from a perspective it's required under the grant assurances for the federal funding that come to any airport, but it is, I think it's required for good management.
I agree with that part. The only thing is that in surfing through FAA paraphernalia on a computer, I ran across a section that there's two other, right now, as we speak, there's two other communities around the United States that are doing exactly the same thing we are, but they're calling it more of a runway extension plan. They're not beating around the bush about what's going to happen, and it's almost sounds like it was mandated by the FAA that they do this. The FAA has demanded that they make this study, and I'm just wondering if the FAA is behind it, and we take this thing all the way through, and let's say we say no. I mean, the FAA is just going to walk away and say, okay, because they're paying a lot of money for this.
Well, I want to be sure that I answer your question correctly. First of all, the master plan is a comprehensive plan at any airport that takes into account not only the airport, the changes, but the surrounding community. Now you could, and we have done it at this airport, done a limited plan that says, well, let's look at just a small segment. Let's look at you say a runway extension. Let's look at taxiway extension. Look, a small plan, that's not a master plan. That's a small part of the plan. So, but it's required by FAA to do a full-blown master plan as part of their grant assurances. Now, I know of none. First of all, the FAA cannot come in. I know of no example where the FAA has come in and dictated to a community, to owners of a facility, that they must take and expand or change that facility. I know of nothing like that.
That's funny because there's one community, I didn't write them down, it's an open war between a subdivision of residential homes and the airport because of the fact of whatever they're planning is going to affect these homes, maybe even to do away with them. And I'm a builder. I understand the importance of plans. I don't do anything without a plan. And we, as a board here, have been very, very up on our plans for the community. And I just, after 30 years, it's good you guys are having a plan. But it seems like this only came about because, from what I read, that the FAA is looking for these reliever airports to come into a point where they can handle these planes, these corporate planes. That's all we're talking. I don't think cargo is ever going to come into issues here, but I think it's a corporate plane, and it's fine. And if we can do it, fine. Study it, fine. But I think we got to talk on it and do a little bit more open talking on this subject.
Well, I could not agree more, except that these phase 2 of any master plan is where the heavy lifting is done. That's where the studying is done. And phase 1 says it's changed, and phase 2 deals with what are the requirements to keep any airport viable, to keep it up with the change, to keep the communities viable, the surrounding areas viable. But phase 2 looks at many, many different alternatives to accomplish each of these goals, and it isn't an all or nothing. Phase 2 deals with different options to accomplish as much of the goals in the different areas, that can be there. So there's so much goes in to phase 2. I mean, that's where the real heavy lifting, and quite frankly, Trustee, that's where, if we're going to have an argument, that's where the argument should happen. That's where the discussion should happen.
Well, and true, and and like I say, I've always been a fan of the airport. I've never had any trouble with it. Yeah, you get some lazy planes sometimes, but, you know, it's not that bad, not compared to people that I know that live around O'Hare. My only concern is the economic of this community. Along with your plan, when it comes down, whatever it says, go north, south, east, west, down, up, you know, you need another runway or another longer runway or whatever the case may be. I hope you're putting together what the cost to the village is going to be.
That's all part of it.
Because if we have to start tearing down what we have here now and losing the taxes on that, that's going to be a huge impact on us. And that's, I think, something we have to consider. Now, if you're not going to do it through this study, then we're going to have to do it.
Well, you know, that is part of the study. I mean, that really is. And not only the financial viability, the noise issues, I mean, everything is part of that study. It is an extremely comprehensive and well-verified study.
No, I'm glad that it's happening. That, you know, any time somebody takes the time to make a plan is good, because first of all, it opens it up for discussion, and that I hope is going to be the issue here, even through these next couple of years as you get to certain things. You know, I think you've got to keep everybody involved in this here, so you don't come by 3 years from now and say, well, here it is, and like you said, you don't want it to be a take it or leave it situation, because that'll put us on the spot.
I can promise you, I think I'm speaking for the airport board, you will receive an excellent, comprehensive, well thought through and factually, you know, authentic a study.
You know, I would say that, you know, when something this important, don't you think you should have a representative of the people that are going to be affected?
Well, there certainly is citizens' representation as part of this. I mean, we've talked to the citizens about their concerns and tried to answer their questions so we could agree on that. As we get to phase 2 of the study, there will be considerable citizen involvement.
Yeah, please, thank you. That's all I need. Thanks.
Trustee Lang?
I just wanted to add that the folks that were in here tonight, State Representatives Nekrich and Sente and State Senator Morrison, and an upcoming meeting with State Senator Link. And then just on Saturday, we had an update with U.S. Congressman Dold on this master plan. I had asked Charlie if he would, if we can sit down with these folks and give them an update, let them know where we're at right now. But more importantly, to plant a seed in their minds about the sound remediation. O'Hare is going through a lot of issues right now with sound, Park Ridge especially, and pretty soon that will come up on a state and possibly federal level. We just wanted our representatives to be prepared when that does come up to raise a hand and say, you know, Wheeling has those same issues and we're looking to solve some of those problems as well. And so far they've been very receptive about it. They were happy to know, get an update, although I wish they would have stayed for this, but they were happy to get an update of what is going on there. And it was a good opportunity to talk about the noise remediation and give them some ideas of how they can help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger, anything?
I have nothing, thanks.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. I think what we're experiencing here is the ability for two communities to control their own destiny. In order to do that, you got to have a comprehensive plan. Many years ago, when we bought the airport, one of the main reasons why we wanted to buy that airport is for the communities that are surrounding the airport to have control of the airport and to control the destiny of that airport. How would it be if we would have said no then, and we would have had other entities that are involved in airports dictating to us and moving our cemeteries and moving our roads without anything to say? I think the comp plan that we're working on now is absolutely overdue. I think we have to have a handle on where we're going with our destiny with the airport, not only with the airport, but the entire region and our two communities, because we are the ones that are absolutely put in the spotlight of controlling what happens to not only the region, but here in this trading area. When you saw that map, and we're number 8 out of 10 major reliever airports, and when you look at the proximity to those airports and the cities that they serve, it's absolutely essential that we do have control over that. If we don't, we're going to be put in harm's way. So I'm looking forward to this study being done, and I think that not only the city of Prospect Heights, but the village of Wheeling will make the right decisions, not only for our economic growth, but for our safety and the well-being of our citizens. And I like having that control, so keep going.
Trustee Vito?
Yeah, we passed a resolution here a couple weeks ago, basically indicating that, you know, we're going to take into consideration everything that the residents have been saying. And going out to the informational meeting we had, I did that, and I know the other trustees and the village president did that as well. And what we keep hearing over and over again is a fear over expansion of the runway for reasons of eminent domain, reasons of bigger aircraft and more noise. Can you explain what's in phase 2, as you've been saying, that's all encompassing? What else is there that's being considered in terms of options that, you know, I know it's general now and you haven't dug into it yet, but what are some other things that are under consideration?
I'm sorry, regarding what?
When you go into the master plan, I mean, what specifically are you looking to do in the airport to change things around to best utilize that facility?
Well, there's a number of things that really are taken into account in the master plan. You know, everybody says longer runway, longer runway, longer runway, okay? I believe that there's going to be a determination, if possible, that a longer runway be there. But where is it? How is it? Where does it go? Should there be an additional runway, even a short runway? I mean, that gets considered. And as you look at it, one of the recommendations, someone said at our coffee, says, well, why don't you go to the forest preserve and deal with the forest preserve and cut a bunch of trees down? And that will take and provide an effective, even to existing runway, a longer effective runway. Well, these are all the things that we look at. This is all the things that happen. So, you know, and you talk about noise. Maybe the existing runways, for example, even at that size, maybe there's a change in direction. So, I mean, you know, what we're doing here is we're taking a clean piece of paper, and what we're saying is, what does the community need for their economic development? What are they doing? What do the users need? What do we see happening? And how can what can we accomplish? Maybe it isn't everything, but I can almost guarantee you we can make some strides in some fashion to answer any and all of these questions. Now, I do want to comment on one thing. Everybody says bigger airplanes. The current airplanes that operate from that facility are the size airplane, I mean, they may be a little bigger, that according to the General Aviation Manufacturers Association, the back orders they have, what's on the drawing boards, the size of the airplane, that's what it's going to be. They're not going to be bigger airplanes. Now, why do I say that? Very simply. The airplanes that are operating from the Chicago Executive, the ones that are long-range airplanes, okay, have the capability, now not all of them, but the newer long-range airplanes have the capability with the fuel that the airplane's built with to go 6,500 nautical miles. So there's no reason to build a bigger airplane. It's not needed. The technology that's on the drawing boards for engines, fuel efficiency, that's only going to get better. It's not going to get radically better, but it's going to keep getting a little better. So this notion that we're going to have bigger airplanes there, it just isn't going to happen. I mean, it's just not there. So, you know, what the master plan will do, we'll look at each and every option. We'll set goals. Here's what we want to try to do. We want to deal with noise. We want to deal with all these things. How can we best accomplish that? And there's going to be a number of different ways to reach that goal. And at the end of the study, there's recommendations made and say, here's what we have. I don't know how to answer it other than that.
That's all I have. Thanks.
You know, as a final comment, if I may, please don't lose sight of the fact these communities have something that no other community has. This airport, the ability to move, people to serve the businesses in the area. Nobody has that. And there's not, I will tell you, there's not going to be another one in Chicago or in this region. There's just not going to. So take advantage of that. Capitalize on that opportunity for the benefit of your citizens, for the benefit of the regions. I mean, that cannot be replaced.
Trustee Vogel?
I think for any business, and the Village of Wheeling is a business, it's important that we have a plan in place. Okay, and Pewaukee Airport's a business. We have to have a plan in place, not only short-term but long-term. And I think in order to enhance the economic benefits in the future of the airport, we need this study. But at the same time, I think it's our responsibility sitting here to keep the lines of communication open with the residents. The difference between us and a normal business is we're dealing more with a human factor, okay? And we have to remember that, and we have to strive to keep those lines open and bend over backwards to accommodate the questions they have, the concerns they have. And I know we're not going to convince everybody out there that this isn't a done deal already. That's just not possible. It's not humanly possible. And it's human nature for people to expect that. But we have to continue, and we have to strive to continue as a board and as a Prospect Heights board to work with the residents. I think so far we've been making that attempt, but we have to continue it. So I'm all for continuing the long-term planning. I think it's very important, not only for the village, but for the airport and for the residents of the village. So let's continue, and again, keep in mind we're working for the citizens, and that's the most important thing here.
Thank you. Charlie, let me ask you something. Who and what determines the Phase 1 study? I mean, what are you studying?
In very simple terms, what we're really studying and looking at is what has changed. What has changed since the last study was done? What has changed in terms of the economic development for the communities? That's just one phase. What's changed in the needs of the users? What's changed has there been noise changes? I mean, what has changed in the industry in the last 30 years? I mean, that's the thing. And once we can, really, that's what we're verifying. And we're verifying, I may think something, but we have to go in and verify that that's really the case. And once we get that in place, so we verify it, then the first report will say these changes have been made, this is what's here, here's what the changes are, and that screams, or it's worthy of further study to see how we deal with it.
And just to clarify, a reliever airport is an airport, instead of going to O'Hare, Milwaukee, Midway, a corporate jet, they have the opportunity to land at Waukegan, here, DuPage, Aurora, Rockford, wherever.
That's correct.
Okay. And based on, just a couple minutes ago, you stated that the new technology today with aircraft, they're lighter, they're more efficient. Why are we even talking more runway? Why is that an issue, or a longer runway?
The corporate users. Okay. Statistically, it was just published in the last couple of weeks. The corporate users, there are 23% of the corporate users will be replacing or buying a new airplane in the next 5 years. Okay. Of the new airplanes that are on the drawing board, they have orders for and they're replacing, 46% of those new airplanes that are ordered or being built are long-range airplanes. Now, what that tells us is that the corporate users, the corporations that are using it for international travel.
Okay.
The technology will help things, but in order to take full use of that corporate airplane to carry the fuel for that international legs requires runway. The airplanes that are operating from our airport now have the same capability, but they're restricted in their ability to get maximum use out of their airplane.
So right now, maximum weight is what, 98,000?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the long-range international aircraft you're talking about in the next 5 years are going to require how much weight?
You know, I doubt that it'll be more than 100,000 pounds, maybe 102, but right in that area. Will not be, but the airplane will look and sound exactly like the airplane that's flying there now.
Right, and that's the point I'm making. The new aircraft today, and I, along with the mayor, we've had the privilege. It was neat to, we had a G550 come in years ago. And there was some members of Wheeling and some members of Prospect Heights that flew on it. And I'm going back where Trustee Lehman was on the board and a trustee here. And one of the things that Trustee Lehman wanted to see is how much runway did this aircraft need to take off? So we were in the aircraft. He was down by the runway, by North American Jet, where Atlantic is now. And that plane, honestly, being in it, number one, didn't hear it. It was so quiet. We went up to Milwaukee, turned around, went downtown, and came back in. But Trevor, I remember telling me it used half the runway, and it was up and out. So that's why I don't understand this future long range. And the guy that owned it was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was the pilot, and he frequently flies from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Beijing, China. Now, they may have a longer runway there, whatever the case may be. But I'm thinking to myself, where is this master plan going? And that's one of the concerns. Well, let me finish. When I sat on the airport board, we talked about doing a comprehensive plan because we had tie-down areas over there where Hawthorne is and where the 1098 building is. And we have pieces of properties that some is in Prospect Heights, some of it's in Wheeling. We have areas there that was unincorporated Cook County that we incorporated into the village of Wheeling to try to bring those businesses up to code, see opportunities there for light industrial use aviation business. We have a Milwaukee Avenue corridor there, along with Prospect Heights, a lot of it in Prospect Heights, that's undevelopable, empty, blighted, no infrastructure in place. I mean, the village of Wheeling through the years has taken dollars that we've generated out of that airport and reinvested back in the airport. Tower Road wouldn't be there today if it wasn't for the village of Wheeling. The new hangars there, you know, Cancer of America and all those guys that are there today wouldn't be there today if we didn't put the infrastructure back into that airport. So we had talked about taking the tie-down areas back in its heyday, general aviation. You would have probably 150, 200 planes that you probably know better than anybody. And today you don't see that. So we have a piece of property there. Could we do something else? Could we bring in some commercial that generates dollars and have it as a place where people can take their families, just like Pilot Pete's in Schaumburg. Good example of that. You want to take your kids or a family to Pilot Pete's, it's the best place in the world. They have a nice lunch, watch the little general aviation aircraft go off, and it's great. You show other airports in our area here. And we're unique, you're right. We're 26 miles from downtown. We're 8 miles from O'Hare, it's great. But the examples that are big airports, DuPage, which I've been to, Waukegan, which I've been to, Rockford, which I've been to, not one of those airports are as most populous and landlocked with residents and businesses like this airport. So it makes it a special animal, too. Speaking with the mayor and going back and forth, I'll tell you right now, Charlie, phase one, I'm looking at a total comprehensive layout plan for that airport, not including expanding runways, okay? Taking blighted areas, incorporating them into the airport. The 94th Aero Squadron is the village of Wheeling. Everybody thinks it's the airport. It's not. Have an opportunity there to maybe have a corporate hangar there, just like the new hangars there on Tower Road. Getting some monies from the FAA to improve our infrastructure. It's, for years, we've been trying to do that. You know, taxiways aren't cheap. EMAS isn't cheap. And doing something that really highlight a great asset that we have in this communities, okay? I'll tell you something. If you guys are still looking at expanding runways, stop. Seriously, Charlie, stop. Because take what you got, enhance what we have, and if we're looking 5 years down the road for a handful of corporate guys that want to come in here and, you know, take off with 1,000 pounds of fuel, and they need more runway, I don't see it happening. I really don't. And I think I can speak for everybody here on this board. We want to see that airport enhanced. We want to see Tower Road, what's been done in the last 10 years, and taking care of wooden bridges going to the 94th and having that blighted area. Look at Industrial Lane, and to bring good jobs, good development there to enhance light aviation, general aviation, whatever the case may be, and bring some of those guys back. We've lost general aviation at that airport, a good part of it, okay? And the taxes are a good reason why. Fuel costs, I mean, what these guys are paying in fuel is almost the same price they're paying at Midway. You know, so it's not competitive. But I think we need to put a timeout on this thing and focus on the blueprint and what we have at that airport and how we enhance the line and stay within that scope. I'll tell you right now, I don't care what you bring to phase 2, I don't care what public hearings you're gonna have, you're wasting your time. Expanding runways, the thought of changing zoning, taking housing, taking the parks, it's never going to happen. Trustee Lang brought up a good point with the legislators, and he's kept me informed on there. If other legislators are doing things around Niles or Des Plaines, around O'Hare, to soundproof homes and give those opportunities. The Part 150 study was done when I was there. The problem was there was no money. Phase 1 should be, see if we can get some money to soundproof maybe Plum Creek, to soundproof maybe the school, and look at opportunities like that. That's what I like to see there. I think that's what this board wants to see there, and I want to put this thing to rest. Because when we met in May, it was a great thing talking about we need to do a comprehensive plan. Yeah, actually, we're obligated to do a comprehensive plan. We haven't done it in 30 years. Shame on us. We've talked about it, but it's never gotten to that next leg. The airport board has been aggressive to hire Mr. Priester, to work with you, Jamie, to work with the board, to come back with a new blueprint for that airport. But I'm telling you something, if that blueprint has anything to do with expanding runways, Charlie, go to Florida, because it's not going to happen. I'm telling you. Jamie, you have a job to do over there. Your predecessor, one thing I got to give him, he went out there and tried to get FAA money and IDOT and work with IDOT, and you got to build those bridges for the betterment of the community there, okay? But we need to move forward with this stuff. And this perception, talk about, it's wrong. And you know what? We went to the thing that we helped co-sponsor with the mayor, and I think it was very good the way you presented that. It was informative. And you know what? The airport is different than it was 10 years ago. I get it. But you want to know something? You're in that blueprint. You're in that line. Don't exceed that line. And don't compare us with everybody else. DuPage, let them go there. And let them drive 60 miles to O'Hare, to downtown. It's not going to happen. They have the room. They're open space there. We're not. So I think we need to be realistic here. And I know you have a meeting next Wednesday, or this Wednesday? This Wednesday? I think that message needs to be very clear from the Village of Wheeling to your board. Say, you know what? Time out here. Enough of this runway extension. The thought of taking homes, realigning Forest Preserve. You're going to deal with IDOT or the Forest Preserve? Good luck. We can't even get them to move trees. You're going to take out trees and expand runways there? I don't see it happening. So I think that's the message that needs to be said today. I want to see phase 1. I want to see what we've inventoried, what we have there, how can we enhance what we have there right now to complement the users there, and bring the people there. We're doing everything we can with Prospect Heights along with the airport to do the July 3rd thing there, to try to bring that asset to the community where young families can bring their families there and enjoy the airport, because the airport's a pretty cool thing. You know, soundproofing's a big thing. We need to focus on that stuff and continue to see what opportunities are out there. But please, don't waste any more of our time or my time. We have bigger things to do and better things to do, but this has to end. And I'm very sorry for whatever work, because I've seen nothing other than what I saw at the open house and what I have on my dais here that you presented on the screen. So that's my opinion. I think the mayor, the good mayor, will echo that. Him and I speak constantly about this. And we need to move forward with, let's enhance what we have. Let's work together with our neighbors, always work together with our neighbors and the businesses there because they're impacted as well. And let's move forward. So that's what I like to see done. And I hope you can send that message to your meeting on Wednesday. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Priester.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay. Item number 8.
Presentation regarding the current and future tax increment financing project.
Thank you. Manager Spendos.
Good evening, thank you. This evening is a brief presentation that is really meant to just be supplemental to the memo that was included in the board's packet. And the idea is that we talk a lot about TIF projects and TIF monies and where that money is going and what it's being used for and how many projects there really are within each of the 5 TIF districts. So myself, Finance Director Monchain, Economic Development Director Malanaphy, and Community Development Director Janik put together a list of all the projects that we know about categorized into 4 different categories: obligated projects, critical projects, projects for additional consideration, and increment-funded projects. The point here was to take a global look at TIF monies and TIF projects and create a system that the board can use, and we will update this every time there is a change, but create something that the board can use as a reference when talking about any TIF project. So very briefly, on the screen before you, you see the projections for the next 5 years in aggregate for all 5 of our TIF districts. And you'll see that obviously the numbers fluctuate each year, and that of course depends on the revenue generated by each district over the next 5 years. In fact, some of them, when you look at the individual districts, have a negative increment each year. So in the end, what you see before you is what the total of our 5 TIF districts will bring in annually for the next 5 years. The important number there is the last one, $9,943,000. So we'll call that $10 million. That $10 million is all we have to spend within all 5 of the TIF districts over the next 5 years. So when we segregated all of the projects into their different sections, we started with the obligated projects. And the point here is not to go project by project. That information is in your packet. This is simply just to show you and the public what projects are on the hook, what's coming up, and then the 4th one is a little bit different, and those are increment-funded projects, and I'll talk about those in a second. So the point here, we have 8 or so projects on the screen now that are obligated. This means that we have already created legislation that binds us to these projects. So if you look in the TIF cost column, there's $4.5 million already obligated of the $10 million. That is the purpose of this presentation, is simply to show these bottom line numbers. We have $10 million coming in to spend over the next 10 years. I'm sorry, over the next 5 years, and of that $10 million, we've already obligated $4.5 million through legislation that exists. The next segment of projects are critical projects. These are the ones that staff identified, but that information was based on priorities that the board has set forth and said will become priorities. We just don't have an RDA or an agreement in place. So again, these are not set in stone. These were just segregated out based on what we have been told. And again, we're not going project by project because the board, from this slide on, has the opportunity to pull projects out of this list and put projects back in this list. The point, though, is to show in the far right-hand corner that this list exhausts the remaining $5.4 million. So whatever is put on this list when these deals become finalized, we can only spend $5.4 million over the next 5 years. This becomes significant because this is a list of all the other TIF projects that we've been made aware of in some capacity. This certainly doesn't mean that every single one of these is going to become real. It just means that either someone has approached us, these are initiatives that staff came up with, they're initiatives that the board came up with, and again, the bottom line is to show that there are $14.8 almost $1 million worth of projects that are on the what we called unfunded list. Again, this list is exhaustive as far as we are aware of. New projects come in all the time. This is not set in stone because, again, the board can pick any one of these as well and put them on the previous list that make them funded. The overall point, though, is, again, to illustrate that just this list alone has $14.8 million of projects that go beyond the revenue that's available. The last segment of projects is increment funded. This is what we affectionately call pay-as-you-go. The reason these are segregated out is because these projects, the way these are structured, money is provided to the developer only after revenue has been created by the project. So this is where a note is created and is doled out, I should say, based on revenue that is created by the project. So these, I don't want to say that these don't count, but the funding structure of these is separate from the others. So we can do these projects. We can do these projects in conjunction with any other combination of 10 million from the previous lists. So we thought that this was important for you, again, to keep track of where all these projects are coming in, but these are separate because they create their own revenue. Again, I just want to repeat that the lists are based on what we know of today, but the board can prioritize them as they see fit. And what we plan to do is anytime that another project is introduced or there is legislation introduced that make one of these projects real, we will update these lists and provide it to the board with each discussion so that you have a better understanding of where we are spending our TIF dollars. So there isn't much else to say about it. We thought that this would be informative. This was an initiative that staff came up with to just help you organize your thoughts and get a little perspective on the more global aspect of TIF monies in our community. With that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Just a clarification.
Sure.
You know, and that $4.5 million, maybe you just want to state that a lot of that has to do with infrastructure as well, not just development.
Absolutely. Projects, oh boy.
Just to clarify, these aren't all development projects. A lot of this stuff is infrastructure projects.
That's
signalization, streetlights, sidewalks.
It's absolutely correct. Any TIF, and thank you for the clarification. This list is any TIF eligible project. That's correct.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee Lang?
Thank you. I see the, you have cost estimates on here. Are they, have you investigated all of these, especially the pay-as-you-go ones pretty closely, or are they like real ballpark of cost?
They are ballpark, but we think they are realistic.
Okay. And we haven't gotten into too much detail on some of these. You look at parking structure, for instance, just to take one for example, and that's really $2 million on that. Seems really just a good close estimate on that, or have we?
Yes, and the only way that that becomes a pay-as-you-go project is if there is a hotel, a office building, or something associated with it that would create revenue in order to pay for this project. So that particular one, that means that there is additional building that comes with the parking garage. But yes, all of these, for example, Urban R2 is on this list. That is the number that we've already agreed to in the RDA. So some of these are real. But the rest, whether it's this list or the previous lists, are our best guess without having bid out the projects themselves.
And obviously, we have more to add to these lists. We just haven't quite done that, gotten that far yet, of new projects that can come up. Or
sure. And they do. They come up frequently.
Yeah.
And that's why we thought that this list was important, because it really does give some perspective as to, you know, TIF is not an endless bucket, that there is a finite amount of money that's available for us to give out.
Right. And then how about expirations on some of these as well? I know we have isn't there overall expiration on certain of the districts? And would that be something to add to the future of this?
Yes, and that's precisely why we only went 5 years out. Now, not only is it just increases our ability to more accurately project what projects are coming in and what monies will be going out, but we do have TIFs expiring in the short term, and that's why we kind of took our first small bite at this.
Okay, and 5 years really is short term.
Yes, and these things change, like you said, new projects come all the time, so there's an awful lot of flexibility with this as projects come on and drop off.
So if you were to do just 10 years out, it would be a even nicer, rosier picture of funds as well?
Well, some of those TIF districts fall off, though. Right, so that really limits our opportunity. And remember, these projects are only within the boundaries of the 5 TIF districts. So really, it becomes a more challenging discussion just because those TIF districts expire, which means the money's no longer available.
Got it. Thank you.
Trustee Brady?
Should we call this our TIF bucket list? Looking through the priorities as you have them listed, you've got pretty much everything covered. But I think as items come up, first, being ready, shovel ready, whatever you want to call it, those are the things we're going to have to take the hardest look at. And some of these other things are going to suffer. I think we got to maybe split them up into high priority, things that we know are going to happen, or pretty confident that they're going to happen, and other things that as we go along, and I know it's all for the good of the community, but some things can wait a little bit, and maybe that's what we should do. And then if something new comes up, brand new, we have to weigh that individually against what we have to spend.
You're absolutely correct, and that's why what we are going to do from this point forward is every time a request is made, formally or informally, we will add it to the list so that you have that perspective of what you will deem a priority.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Krueger, anything?
Yeah, I just have a question about the combined fund balances, the first graph that you shared. Can those fund balances change as EAVs change? How often are the EAVs looked at to determine if we've broken ground on something in Town Center TIF and 3 years from now the EAV goes up and that increment is bigger? Can these, what are these numbers based on?
Michael's.
Those numbers are based on estimates of what the future EAV in each of the districts will be, but we do update those annually. So as we get better information from the county, we adjust it, and if we estimate too low, then these numbers will be a little rosier than they are right now.
That's what I'm hoping for.
We did, however, include projects that we believe will come online and the revenue generated from those in these projections.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. On the list that we have, and there are 3 different types of lists here, what projects are being talked to by staff and are close to being into a development agreement? How many projects do we have that are, do we have any projects here that are close to being a development agreement, or staff is working with them?
This list before you.
I'm sorry?
This list here. The projects on this list are the ones that we are currently working on and have been discussed by the village board in the past, and the ones that we believe offer the most benefit for TIF monies. That said, again, the next list, the longer list, this one, the board sets the priority, not staff. So between this list and the previous one, it is up to the board to decide how that $5.4 million is spent. The only obligations that are current, is this list. These are solidified projects that have financial obligations to the village. That's why when we created the other lists, we knew how much money we were working from. Everything beyond this list is up to the board to prioritize.
Our Crossroads TIF is just about, what, 5 more years to go?
2019.
19.
5 years.
5 years to go. Okay. And I know we don't want to talk about, individual items here, but I think it's important that we put in perspective who's now talking to staff and are close to getting a development agreement. And are those going to be coming back up again?
Absolutely. I believe there's one in particular that you're talking about, and there will be a workshop item at the next meeting.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we do have that, because I know staff's been working on a number of different developments, and they're in different phases of getting close to a development agreement. And I want to make sure that we don't lose those. But is there any consideration being put together by staff to take the Crossroads TIF, and because there's still a lot of development to do in that particular area, and there are some pieces of property over there that have been up for sale, and people are looking at them, and are we going to start a new TIF, or are we going to have the capability of, if a large project comes in, to create a TIF for that particular project? What's the mindset here?
I think there's always the opportunity, if you have an area of town that qualifies or a project that qualifies. I think that's a separate discussion, but to answer your question, we're always looking at what is the best long-term solution for the economic benefit of the community. So I think where applicable, the answer is yes.
Just to clarify, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I just wanted on this obligated projects list, like the signalization, the Wolf Road, that would be the local share that we're obligated for, because those projects are far more than $700,000 for the signalization here, because we have some grant opportunities that we've gone out and seen.
That's correct.
I was getting to that.
Just to clarify that dollar amount.
That's correct.
From what I've read about Wolf Road and it becoming a village-owned street, so on and so forth, but all the improvements we've been talking about has been put on the back burner for another 5 years. Is that correct?
Not for another 5 years. It is in the 5-year plan, and what we've been told is that it's towards the end of the 5-year plan, but it is still in the 5-year plan.
But it's towards the end of the 5-year plan.
Correct. Correct. But again, the monies that we're talking about are in total for the village for the next 5 years. So if we expect a project to happen, then it has to be included on this list, and therefore that money is obligated.
Okay. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Vito?
Yeah, just one question on the pay-as-you-go. Is that a finite amount, or since they're kind of separately allocated from those and the other ones where we actually upfront the money instead of doing a note, is there a finite amount of the amount of those we can do? Is there, or we can continue to keep doing those?
Correct.
If something else came along?
Correct.
In the TIF district? Okay. And I saw the facade program. Is that $100,000 per year for the next 5 years, or is that?
Yes, we have a certain amount for each TIF district as part of our budget.
Okay.
That's where that money comes, or that's where that total comes from.
Okay, so it's really $500,000 for 5 years in each, or no?
It's 20, Mark, please correct me if I'm wrong, is it $25,000 per TIF district per year?
We typically spend typically we spend $50,000 a year, but there are some years we don't spend any money at all, for one reason or another. So we put $100,000 in there. I mean, it could be $500,000, or it's not $500,000, $250,000, $50,000 a year. It could be $100,000 a year, but we put down 100 because historically we don't always spend the $50,000 a year.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That's all I had.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
Just one question on the sharing federal and state sources. Is there any need to adjust any of these numbers because of what's going on with the state budget right now? Or we feel confident we're going to get, who knows, we're still going to get our state shares?
I don't know that we can use confident and state in the same sentence, unfortunately. But to answer your question, this is as accurate as we can get it. If they change something, this will change drastically. As far as those that are already obligated, we don't think that there's going to be a change. But a lot of our grants Dundee Road Lighting, for instance, comes through the Northwest Municipal Conference. Of course, they all have their source somewhere else. But we're hoping that this list is not going to be impacted by the state. If it does, we will absolutely have to reprioritize.
Is it substantial? If it does, it could be.
Could be. It absolutely could be. And I think actually President Argyris has something he wants to read during official communications that will address exactly that so that the public has a better idea of what's going to happen to us should the state make changes with the local distributive fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, around Christmas time, Manager Svanillis and I were talking about how we're, to work with staff that's get an informational piece together as a blueprint regarding these TIFs, and so we have a good understanding where we're at on some of this stuff, projected projects. The philosophy of this board for the last couple of years has pay as you go. So if there is an incentive for a development that comes in here, they need to generate that increment. If they don't generate that increment, they don't get. So I think consistently we've been doing that. To kind of answer your EAV question, a lot of that, if it is a project that creates a new EAV and a new increment, a lot of that will be, designated for that development because that's basically how we do things. But you're right, the Crossroads TIF ends in 5 years, 2019. South TIF ends in 2023. The North TIF ends in 2027, 28. And the two new TIFs, we got 23 years. I think the philosophy here is, you know what, if we got these TIFs, let's use these TIFs, let's not sit on them. Let's seek opportunities for economic development, infrastructure improvements, whatever we need to do, and do it. Let's not waste 10 years. Because the faster we get done with stuff, the happier our friends at the park, the schools, and the library are. Because you know what, we can release those TIFs if there's nothing else going on. So I think the mindset has been that, and it's been good working with John and Michael and John and Mark and everybody else up there, that, hey, you know what, we need to utilize the tools that we have and look at the opportunities that are out there and do it. West side of town is in dire need of a big facelift. We have a new TIF there. We need to do it. And you know what? Because the faster we get development in there and new increment generated, the happier all the taxing bodies will be, as well as all of us up here. So again, thanks staff. You really pulled this off really quick, so it was great. We just talked about it a couple of months ago, not even. And I'm glad that we'll keep this thing updated and we got a blueprint that we can all work with. Okay. Official communicate, anything else, John?
No, thank you.
Official communication, Trustee Hein, start with you.
Thank you. Since it was announced that our Memorial Day Parade festivities were announced, there's been a number of phone calls relative to organizations in town wanting to participate in the parade and the Settlers Day picnic. So anybody that's interested in participating in the parade, any organization, i.e. Rotary Club or whatever, please contact myself. But we will be getting together shortly and inviting the different organizations in town to a meeting to discuss their participation in the parade. And if anybody is interested, as you know, it's the 50th anniversary of the Wheeling Historical Society, and they put together a wonderful calendar that is available through the society. Anybody interested in purchasing it can get a hold of any member, and we will get it to you. The price is $9.95. End of commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you. Last week I was caught a bit off guard to talk about St. Baldrick's. our team and my fundraising efforts, but today I'm a little bit better prepared. First, St. Baldrick's Foundation is a national not-for-profit organization founded in 1999 that fundraises for children's cancer research. The Lincolnshire and Wheeling professional firefighters are in their 7th year of hosting a great event for kids' cancer. Over the last 6 years, they have raised over $250,000. Our 2014 event raised...
Sorry.
That's okay. Just over $50,000. So along with all the head shaving... What's that?
I think we were all just waiting for the little, like, gizmo guy to...
Like a gizmo, yeah.
What was his name from the Flintstones? Whatever, the little green guy.
Greco.
Sorry, Mary.
That's okay. Along with all the head shaving, they will again have silent auctions, 50-50 raffles, special guests, and a larger kid zone. Please join everyone for the annual St. Baldrick's event. Whether you decide to shave your head, volunteer, or donate, we hope that you will be a part of the excitement on March 7th, 2015 at Home Bar at 1227 North Rand Road, Arlington Heights. And if you cannot make it, feel free to go to www.stbaldricks.org and search for the Wheeling Firefighters team. Make a donation as you see fit. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A little Old Spice on your head after you get shaved.
I was just going to say, you know, like that, you should have that ringtone go off after every person gets shaved. Yeah.
Trustee Vogel?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Brady?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Vito?
Just wanted to say that I thought the informational meeting at Chicago Executive was what it was supposed to be, pretty informational. I kind of went more as a resident than as a trustee to kind of learn and myself as to what was going on there, and it was good to see a bunch of people came out. They're really concerned, and they're here tonight. A lot of them are, and I think we have been listening to them like we promised we would a couple weeks ago.
Thank you. Trustee Lang?
Nothing this evening, thanks.
Clerk Simpson?
I have nothing this evening.
Nothing
We're
at all?
sold out at the Historical Society dinner.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
Manager Spondelis?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Just one thing, just a reminder, the Chamber of Commerce is hosting its annual State of the Village Address, which is Wednesday at 11:30 at Sarnello's. Got a copy of the list. It's going to be pretty well attended this year, so it should be an interesting afternoon with Mayor of Prospect Heights, and looking forward to addressing the businesses there in the community. And that's all I have this evening. We do have executive session this evening for the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the village and the setting a price for sale or lease of property owned by the public body. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Hines, second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, we'll go in executive session, say about 8:15, okay? Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.